Thirst tells the twisted tale of Sang-Hyun, a devout Catholic priest who decides to volunteer for an experimental clinical trial, and after receiving a blood transfusion, he begins to develop characteristics of a vampire. Now, Sang-Hyun thirsts for many sinful desires that go against his lifelong religious values, which creates this interesting inner conflict as Sang-Hyun struggles to resist the temptation of committing these sins while constantly punishing himself and contemplating the morality of his actions. It's a very intriguing premise that takes a man of religion and puts him in quite the disturbing predicament, as Sang-Hyun finds himself needing to drink blood to support his condition, and his newly heightened senses attract him to Tae-Ju, the wife of his childhood friend. And this is the first time he finds himself in a position to love and feel the love of a woman in return. However, Sang-Hyun knows indulging in this affair goes against his values, and he also doesn't want to kill anyone to acquire blood. So it's really fascinating to watch as he attempts to come to an internal compromise on how to succumb to his needs in a righteous manner. But regardless of what he now chooses to believe or manages to convince himself of, Sang-Hyun is visibly haunted by this transformation, as he goes from a kind-hearted man who set out to do good and help people to inadvertently becoming somewhat of a leech that now requires to take from those he was determined to help. His struggles only worsen the deeper he falls in love with Tae-Ju, and as their love blossoms, the true nature of this innocent priest and this fragile young woman begin to surface. Like I said, fascinating stuff, especially how director Park Chan-Wook takes the vampire concept and cleverly uses it to present a horrifying shift in human behavior, which creates a very interesting and exciting dynamic, as you have these two characters who are actually quite similar in one way, but also completely different as to why they're similar. And it's very compelling to watch them develop over the course of the movie, partly because of how these characters are written, but even more so because of the performances from Song Kang-Ho and Kim Ok-bin. Song Kang-Ho is excellent as always, but Kim Ok-bin really stole the show for me, and I find it quite hypnotizing to watch her come out of her shell as she seduces Sang-Hyun and the audience with her phenomenal performance. Both Song Kang-Ho and Kim Ok-bin truly bring their characters to life, and their performances instantly made me a fan of both of them. So we get two strong performances from the lead actors, and the quality in acting even extends to the supporting cast, with actors like Shin Ha-kyun and Kim Hae-suk, who both contribute to some of the more unforgettable scenes in the movie. And I feel like all the actors really come together in service of Park Chan-Wook's incredible writing and direction. I really admire the way Park Chan-Wook approached this movie. He begins by taking his time to slowly introduce these characters and their environment, with scenes that perfectly portray everything you need to know about how these characters exist, which creates quite an unsettling atmosphere. And then, when the movie picks up in momentum, it showcases thrilling scenes of passion, tension, and horror. It all comes together to create a very distinctive package that blends multiple genres and delivers a movie full of captivating characters, ideas, and moments, further enhanced by some very nice framing of the camera, and accompanied by a chilling musical score powered by string and woodwind instruments. There's just so much this movie has to offer, and it all builds up to quite possibly my favorite ending to a movie of all time. Very few words are spoken in a 10-minute long sequence that portrays a beautiful conclusion to this story. And the first time I watched this movie, I was in complete awe of what I had just seen. and it took me some time to really digest the movie as a whole. And each time I rewatch it, I enjoy it and appreciate it more and more. But what makes this movie even more special to me is that it was one of the first South Korean movies I saw, and the combination of Park Chan-Wook, Song Kang-Ho, Kim Ok-bin, and all the collaborative efforts that went into making this movie made me develop a thirst of my own. A thirst for film. And because of how this movie captured me, it was essentially my gateway into South Korean cinema. Now, it's been many years, and I've watched hundreds of Korean movies since, and Thirst is still my favorite Korean movie of all time. So naturally, I'm going to highly recommend watching this movie, and I'd recommend watching the director's cut if you can find it. It's around 2.5 hours long, which makes for quite a lengthy movie, but I feel like it really uses its time well. And it's honestly just such a remarkable experience to watch this masterfully crafted movie come together and play out with this strong cast of characters leading this intricately woven story executed to near perfection. Like I said, because of this movie, I continued exploring South Korean cinema, and I discovered so many amazing Korean movies as a result. And I plan on sharing my thoughts on many of the Korean movies I've seen on this channel in hopes of helping others further explore South Korean cinema. So, if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you for watching Thirst for Film.